Many creators these days, especially on the educational side or on the infotainment side, actually over time try to increase their speaking speed. Maybe it looks like this, maybe it looks like this. But this is kind of a problem. Why? Because actual educational content needs to be consumed at the ideal learning rate. Now, given by the platforms we currently have, not constantly, maybe the playback speed of 1, 1.5, 1.75, 2.0. Now, in an ideal scenario, the speed or the rate at which words leave your mouth and are understandable and pronunciated would be kind of independent from the actual consumption speed. So you could record videos in your normal talking speed that has basically the optimum in terms of how well you are able to put out these ideas. If you now are constrained by the variable playback speeds that are available, such as 2.0 is the maximum currently on YouTube. So if this is 0.5, 1, I actually could write them down. 1.0, 1.5, 2.0. If 2.0 is the maximum playback speed that is allowed within at least YouTube, if you don't have a Chrome extension, then what happens over time is now that the creators or the media producers which produce content at a higher rate, since there are different effects that are attributed to basically higher rates of information in terms of language at a given unit of time, such as allowing for bigger or higher informational density. Cleo Abram, for example, an educational creator or a journalist who worked previously for Vox. Now, I recently watched something of her and I realized that she either can talk very fast or she additionally increases the speed in her video post-production. Now, what this results in is that you have now varying playback speeds actually. So this is basically the result of a system that incentivizes people to talk faster. Why would this be the case? Why would Mr. Beast, for example, scream at 2 times the speed you would usually talk in conversation with him on a YouTube video? Because it is just more engaging, because it is more demanding. Now, of course, there are different variables to why something is engaging, and one of these is how demanding something is. Now, in general, one could assume that the faster something is, up to the point where you cannot process it at all anymore, and this might also evolve over time as people are more accommodated to higher playback speeds, and also to higher word production rates, you could say. Let's compare Mr. Beast, for example, talking in normal speed, and he has 10 seconds to hook you. And he talks in normal speed, which is speed 1, and the second one is speed 2. It's basically twice the speed. Now, at a given fixed rate of words, if he chooses the second one, which then might not mean that on YouTube you watch it in playback speed 2, but if on YouTube you still have playback speed 1, and he speaks already and records it, or at least post-processes it in a way that it doubles the rate of his words coming out of his mouth, then at the 2 mark, he basically is able to say twice as much. Is he also able to communicate or message to you twice as much information? Probably not, because you just have half the time basically. Because if you said the same thing in twice the time, of course you would have, as a watcher, more time to view it. But now, independent of the input, the output obviously also can be manually adjusted. So therefore somebody can view something now at twice the speed, which then actually results now not in twice the speed anymore, since it already, the file itself basically is already twice the speed. So now this would be 4 times the speed. If Mr. Beast talked, so if we take the average speaking of maybe 250 words per minute, and then multiply this by 2, and then you usually have a video that is the final video that has a speed rate, speaking rate of 500 words per minute, and then you additionally have a 2 times multiplicator on this, on the platform, then this results in even higher things. The problem that now exists is that the the tools you have to adjust your playback speed on the platforms now don't work globally anymore across all the different kinds of content, because some kinds of content might actually be more towards one. Sometimes the content then might, in terms of choosing two, might actually be more on the side of 4 times the normal playback speed or the speaking rate. What this results in basically is, this system that incentivizes people to make more engaging content by speaking faster, of course depending on the category the content is in, is therefore incentivizing content creators to make faster content. Now, what this means is that these tools, the native tools YouTube, for example, provides within its platform and within its apps and web platform are not working properly anymore. And then on the other side again, if then a person wants to match their ideal speed, their ideal consumption speed to the video, it cannot do this as effectively with the tools that are provided by the platform, since the speed itself is varying a lot. In an ideal world, let's just speak for educational content, every person would choose their optimal speaking output that optimizes for message efficiency. And then on the other hand, the person completely independent from this could choose the playback speed. This doesn't have to be a multiple of the original speed anymore. It can also be less, basically, but it is just this original speed multiplied by a multiplicator that is then manually individualized to the individual person, and therefore again optimizes for optimal consumption. And therefore this incentive to make things faster and faster on YouTube, for example, or to speak just faster and faster, might also mean, so this incentive then might be gone, but what this also might mean is that then people again can speak normally, and then of course maybe over time as social media basically incentivizes creators to speak faster, and as people consume this, people might also begin to speak faster, and the speaking speed of the overall human population also in real-time conversation might actually increase over time until it maybe hits a plateau where just the processing power is not enough to actually pronounce more words, or maybe it's the vocal cords that then begin basically to not recover at a rate at which you are able to normally speak in a given average day the words you need to speak. But another side effect of this is, if you are able to speak faster, the current system basically, apart from you adjusting manually in the back end of post-production, the content, if you are, let's say, you are one of the fastest speakers on the planet, and you are also able to provide basically the input for the speaking at a faster rate, what this could result in is you having a competitive advantage, because you can now just make faster videos. Whether this results in higher quality videos compared to you recording it at the normal speed and so on and so forth, or compared to you comparing yourself to others basically that do something similar, is another discussion entirely. But what this means for you is, if you can improve your speaking speed and also your thinking speed, then what you could potentially do is you could just record these videos and then actually slow them down. Let's say you could record videos in 2.0, you record them in basically half the time that it then appears as if you were speaking. So basically you could record twice as much in the same absolute time frame, which would be a very big competitive advantage actually. So for myself speaking, this is actually something I tried, but at least as of currently, I have not followed anymore. And I also constantly have to remind myself of speaking faster. So often I think the brain power would be there, but since you're also concentrated on this one thing and you also are not reminded of maybe potentially speaking faster, of course this also might come with the downside of maybe being less understandable, and the pronunciation might also be suffer. But as I said, there might be a potential limit to how fast one is able to speak. Not only how fast the population in general on average is able to speak, but also how fast you are able to speak. But this would maybe provide a competitive advantage. But ideally now, this competitive advantage would not be something that has to be manually exploited by you, but just could be exploited by the platforms, but you still delivering kind of the content in a way where you feel comfortable with, and then the platform figuring out, kind of standardizing the speed in the middle, and then giving the consumers the choice to then choose their playback speed of their choice, which might in the future be based on the words that are based on the transcript, and therefore it can calculate the words per minute, and therefore give it back to you in words per minute. Of course, this doesn't work with kinds of content where there is no constant speaking, because then the calculation is kind of off, but maybe there might be a solution to this problem that is currently incentivizing creators to speak faster and faster and faster, and therefore to make the content more engaging.